Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Braam sound. Somebody wanted me to do something for Halloween and they suggested a Braam sound, a wah sound, so I thought I'd do it. Actually, I don't know if that really has to do with Halloween, but they use it in lots of movies and I think it's cool, so let's do it. This is what I came up with. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I actually did this video before, but it took me like 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to speak a little bit faster this time. I'm going to leave the attack here for now at just 10 milliseconds. Turn the sustain all the way up to 0. We're going to switch this to monophonic mode, and we're going to set the release to, let's try 500 milliseconds at first, but you might want to set this to like a second or even more. We don't have anything in here now, so you're not going to hear anything. We're going to basically be blending together 4 sounds. We're going to use an 808 sound, a low brass sound like a trombone, or actually probably a bass trombone or a tuba or something, a mid brass sound like trombone, and then finally a synthesizer sound. So let's start with that 808. We'll do that quickly. Use drum synthesizer 4 in. I want to turn the auto restart on, and I want to make sure the editor, go into editor mode here. Turn the noise off. We'll pop this out so we can see it. I want to make sure it's on a sine wave. We're going to move this up here and we're just going to have it drop like this. Make sure the length is up as well. Like that. So this obviously doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like an 808. So what we can do is we can add a little point here by double clicking like this. We'll just move this down. That's starting to sound more like an 808. We can make this longer, so whatever length you think is good. Maybe I'll try like 300 milliseconds, like 3 seconds. Move this here. Actually, I don't want this all the way at the bottom. This is 20 hertz, but who can hear that? So let's move like 40 or something. Here we go. This, bend this down 2, and then bend this as well. We can move this down. If you want more of a click sound, like a laser zap, I usually like to move it down like this. That's good for me. This is really loud, but we'll deal with that later. So this is what I want just for this sound. I want that huge drop sound. So we have that. Just turn it off by clicking 1 here. Not on anymore. Now let's move to our low brass sound, or a tuba sound, I guess. We're going to use oscillator here. You can do this just by using samples, but since MSoundfactory is a synthesizer and this is kind of like a sound design course, let's do it using synthesis. So I'm going to go here, change this to a sine wave. If I play this now, you can probably barely hear that. What I want to do is not use a pulse width modulation. What I want to do is use the bend function here. So that's what I want to do. So we're going to need an envelope to do that. So I might set this, I don't know, 70 or so to start. And then we're going to put an envelope on it. Let's use envelope 1 here. Let's use the attack somewhat fast. Let me try like 80 or so. The decay, we're going to use a lot longer. Let's like 500 millisecond decay there. Let's look at the depth. Maybe this should go into like the 90s or so, like maybe like 92. Let's listen to this. Pretty good. But to make this the low sound, what we want to do is just drop this an octave like this. And because it's lower, sometimes you can turn the depth up a little bit. So now it's at 92. Let's see what happens if we put it at 96. I think that's sounding fine. So what we can do here is just leave that alone, copy it, paste it here, make sure we turn 2 off so we don't hear it. We're going to set this back to 0. We might need to adjust our bend. Let's listen to it. Might adjust this, turn this depth up, and actually turn it down, maybe like 64, and then turn this up again. Actually, another thing that's happening is it's quickly going down here. Whoa, like that. I don't want that. So let's set this release to the same as our global envelope, which is 500. Sounding all right to me, but instead of just doing trombones, let's do a trombone section. So let's enable this, set this to 4, or I'll set it to 8. You can even set it to fractional values if you want. Set on random here, I think that should be fine. Let's play something. I think it's sounding all right. Let's check 2 and 3 together, so that tuba and trombones together. Now, sometimes you want to click on and off one of these, just make sure you can hear everything. I think everything's coming through loud and clear, the bass and that trombone section. Let's turn both of these off and let's just do one more. We're going to add in an oscillator. This time we're not doing any type of horn sounds. This is just going to be a basic super saw. We already have the saw wave on there now. I'll set this to 12, but you can set it wherever you want. Actually, 11 something is good. Cool. We're going to just put a low pass filter on this. Let's use filter basic, have the low pass here. I'm going to move the resonance down to about 30. If I have it higher, you see it has that resonant peak. I don't want that, so like 30. No resonant peak, good. Set the frequency to about 1 or 1 point something. I'll set it at 1.47, that's fine. We're going to add another envelope, but not the same one. I used envelope 1 twice. This time we're going to use envelope 2. This time we're going to have a longer attack, maybe like this. We'll use around the same decay time, like 500. Make sure we turn our depth up. So let's make this go to like 4 something. 4.54 octaves. Now, go back in here. We'll do the same thing for the release here. Set this to 500. And let's add some movement with the trim here. So I'll move this down to like 4 something. Move this up. And you should see this move back and forth while I'm sustaining. Okay, so that seems like it's where I want it. So let's listen to those 3, 2, 3, and 4 together. Sounding good. I didn't add this in because this 808 drop is really loud. So now that we have everything here, let's add everything together. We're going to go into the FX section and we're going to use a mixer. So if you look here under building blocks, you see mixer. Now we're going to put everything together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make sure you use steel 1, 2, 3, and 4, or 4, 3, 2, 1 in this case. So everything's there together. I'm going to turn the 808 down and then I'm going to blend it into taste. I'll listen to some of the other parts too. The bass seems okay. Okay. Now, what I usually do here is add some saturation to everything. You can do this all together, but I think it becomes a little bit messy. I'm going to do it separately. You can EQ these separately, but I'm not going to, just for the sake of time, and I think maybe it doesn't need it so much. So first thing here, I'm going to solo this. This is our 808 sound with nothing on it. Put this on. You can just hear it a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit too much though. Okay, let's go to the next one. We'll just use a little bit of saturation here on our low brass. I can push it a little bit more. That's just bringing out those highs or actually putting harmonics in there. So I think that's nice, and it'll make it a little bit more audible. Let's do the same thing here for the mid brass here, these trombone sounds. And let's do it one more time for the synth. The synth, I think I can kind of really go crazy with. I think it sounds better if you do more with this, in my opinion. You can really hear that kind of like frying there at the top end. So that's what I want basically. From here, now let's hear everything put together. Now what we want to do is just EQ it. So I'm going to take an equalizer here. First thing I'm going to do is just cut off some of the low end, use 24 decibel per octave high pass filter, maybe move up to like 40 something. Okay, and another thing I like to do is just clean up some of the low, I guess, low mids or the upper bass, I guess. So I'm going to use auto listen and just move this around and just find the kind of muddy space. And also kind of turn the volume down. So this is afterwards, peaking around 10, before. A little bit over this, so I'll just turn it up a bit, maybe 2-3 decibels. I think it's sounding better. From here, we can compress it. I'll just use Turbo Comp here. You can use whichever one you want. I like to use the 1176 or the image stressor. I'll put that on there. Might turn the input down. I want to do maybe between 5 and 10 decibels of compression. Seems good. With the ratio up too. That's good, and now just move the output up. Maybe for that, a little bit too much saturation. That compressor is really bringing it out. And I can actually turn the saturation on this down too if I want. Now this is almost exactly what I want. Just a few more things. I'm going to add a delay in here. So put this on here, pop it out. What I want to do is just turn the dry down for a second so we can hear it as it is. Turn the delay up. You can set this to whatever value is good for your song. Hear that? I want to set this to default. You hear that's a lot softer, and that's because the feedback is kind of controlling that and the gain is controlling that. I like to use default mode. I'm going to set the feedback so I can get maybe 3-4 repeats. That seems pretty good. I can go down a little bit. And now you hear it sounds almost like the exact same thing. What I want to do is move this minimum up, which is the high pass filter. There we go. And then move the max down, which is a low pass filter, maybe 1,000 something. Okay, now add that dry back in. Ooh, turn that down by accident. Let's try this. Turn the dry back up. Sounds pretty good. And the last thing is I want to put reverb on there. So just use large spaces here. Let's use Randy Hall. I think that's what I used in the other one. I think this one sounds really good on this. It has a little bit of modulation already, but I like to turn it up a little bit, maybe 0.7 hertz, maybe 35 to 40, maybe 30 to 40 actually. Length 3000 milliseconds sounds good. Wet, dry, early, late sounds good, or looks good actually. I'm going to change this side. This is the side high pass filter. I move this all the way up because I don't want stereo information on my sides. We can adjust these things, but let's listen to it first. That's basically what I want. I can turn this down, but actually I think that sounds okay. And here, if you want something that's not going to get in the way of other instruments or things, you can turn this up maybe around 100 hertz to 200 hertz. You see, when you do that, your low end is not rumbly, sounds nice. But if you want it to reverberate in that low end, like for example, if this is just a single hit, maybe a sound effect or something, you might want that. So in that case, just turn it down. So there you hear that bass really reverberating. So, it just depends on what you want. And I'll show you one more bonus thing. Another way you can really use this to make your own unique sounds is take this basic idea and add your own thing to it. So if I wanted to make this sound a little bit more digital and not so organic, I could add one more thing here. So I right click on the mixer, I'll add input 5, steal input 5, perfect. We don't have anything going through there, but we will in a second. So I'll just solo this, go back to the generator, stay with me, let's add some digital stuff here. Use the noise generator, white noise, make that mono, and we're going to add a filter, but we're going to use something special, resonator. So let's make a string sound. There we go. I'm going to turn this low pass completely off, turn the feedback up into the 90s like this. I want to turn this down too. And use this high pass a bit. We're going to need to filter that more, so let's use a band pass filter here. What I'm going to do is just pop this out, use the constant mode, turn the resonance down just like before. Turn the high pass on. The high pass with the resonance just gives it a little bit of bass in that main frequency. Now what we're going to do is blend it in with the rest of the sounds, like this. Should probably turn this down too. So there is your cinematic Braam. Hopefully this didn't take too long, and hopefully I went over everything you wanted to know. I didn't EQ these separately, but sometimes you can get better sounds by EQing each of these lanes separately to get more separation and everything. And of course, you can use individual effects on each of these to get different sounds and create something really new and interesting and unique to yourself. But hopefully I explained everything that you wanted to know. If I did, give me a thumbs up. If you have any other questions, leave those down below, and be sure to check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.